Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back everybody.
Please do subscribe both channels, EEARTS and also on Evolutionary. Each one has unique videos. We are on Brighteon, Rumble, and Bitchute as well, and of course, Patreon and Ko-Fi, which we want to thank our supporters over there. Boy, when it rains, it pours. Absolutely life-threatening flash flood in the Dallas, Fort Worth area. This is just massive, and being that Dallas is the closest major metro to us, we're getting much of the same here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely soaking wet, and we're sending our vibes and good energy to those who need it.
It's been basically drought conditions. Eastern Texas, not as bad as when you get out in the western Texas, like hill country, severe drought. And what it does is when the ground is so dry, and then all of a sudden you get this massive rainfall like this, absolutely deadly conditions. And I don't have any stats on how many people, if any people, lost their lives. Let's hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, as you see people swimming here in streets on the interstate in Dallas.
No, that looks really, I mean, that's just got to be horrible, those poor people.
Yeah, so as you read this tweet, major flash floods in Dallas this morning. They were in a drought, down 10 inches for the year. And then the metro got 10 inches, or actually more. I've seen some sources saying we got 15 inches plus of rain just in the last 24 hours. Actually, far less than 24 hours. And more rain is headed this way. So, that is just a recipe for disaster. As you see people getting rescued left and right. This is a major flood that we're seeing. Here's I-30. And you could just see some of these shots. We've talked about this in the past. It really, to me, seems like since 2017, it's just gone bonkers. And Cindy said the weather gods are, what did you say? How'd you put it?
Well, they're definitely answering some prayers, sort of.
Are they playing their harps? Are they fiddling at CERN?
They definitely heard people wanting rain, so, they can kind of exaggerate things at times.
Yeah, back in the old days, people would be saying, what do? We must have sinned against God. Now we know there's satellites in the sky. There's all sorts of weather modification, geoengineering going on. Of course, now they want to basically say this is all due to your carbon emissions, and you got to be taxed for this. This is all your fault. We're going to tax you for it. So this doesn't happen again. You always use weather as an excuse, acts of God, which are not really acts of God. As we see all these abandoned cars out there. Check out this neighborhood, unfortunately. This water is so high it's entering most of the streets, most of the houses on this street. I mean, anybody that had a backyard garden, that garden's flooded. And, this is just bad. This is a really bad situation. We're thankful it doesn't look quite that bad here. But it does look like, you could take a nice dip in the pond in the back.
Well, definitely. And, in some ways, this is a good example to show that there were times when people just automatically thought, well, the gods, we've done something wrong. We've sinned against the gods, but they just didn't have the understanding that there is technology that can do this. So we can see these controllers, they've always been here, always have done this same thing.
Absolutely. And again, we pray for these people. Hopefully everybody stays safe. You want to be very careful. We don't have a basement. If you do have a basement, you want to be careful. And even if you don't have a basement, I remember there was a young man in Texas like a year or two ago. I forget if it was 2 years ago already. But he basically just went over into the garage and he got electrocuted because the water was high enough to be hitting wires. So you got to be so careful and think about that. Think about all the hidden dangers. I don't know of any gators in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In Florida, you see flooding like this, though, and you are running the danger of seeing a gator go by. Look at these water rescues. I mean, this is just craziness. Craziness. You know, when you go from a drought to this in just like one day, boom. And the weather pattern, I've been looking at it, is for a wet, soggy next week, pretty much. Definitely in the next 3-4 days, it looks like we might have more flooding on the way. This is an apartment. You can see how high that water is. Scary situation. Again, you don't want to venture into that water. Yeah, and look at how high this is. Any cars would be absolutely, completely submerged. Completely submerged. There was one emergency call I saw flash through where somebody saw a car get swept away like that, and they thought there was somebody in it. There's floods in other places, as we're going to look at. There's some absolutely deadly floods going on right now in Pakistan. And it just hits me that, again, all around the world we're seeing this. As this tweet is saying, the flood is insane. Over 10 inches. Some spots I was seeing, again, 15 inches being quoted. Weather reporter Robert Ray saves a woman from flood in Dallas. And it is wonderful to see how people can be so good, so giving, and even putting their own lives in danger to help others. Again, when we talk to people, and it's been a common thing in these days that people say, why did I come here in the first place? You know, when we see everything that's happening in this world, a lot of people are questioning, why do I come? Why would we ever choose to come here in this time? With the plague upon the land, the nonstop wars, all the different things that are happening. Well, what it is it's an opportunity for soul growth, and this is going to go up on EEARTS, so we could talk about that. Since Cindy's breathing, Cindy was holding her breath, like, don't go into that on Evolutionary. But yeah, this is going to go up on EEARTS because this is, weather related again. It's an opportunity for soul growth. We come here to test ourselves. We are, again, ultimately, we're consciousness, and this consciousness is eternal. It's our nature, and we're having a temporary experience as a human. And this is a wild carnival ride, so to speak. And the experience, the things that we learn, the experience gain, this is all going to help our soul grow on its eternal path as we, again, are looking at just utter chaos. Do not drive through these type of flooded roadways. This is another person in Dallas with their apartment getting totally flooded out. Again, very dangerous situations when you're getting up to those outlets. As you can see, active high water rescue calls in Fort Worth. This was as of 10:30 a.m. These were the active ones. There's many rescues underway. And again, all this is going to really, the conditions are still there for more in the coming days. This is a good little demonstration here. As you could see, so when you have like real drought conditions that have been in effect, it takes longer for the water to get down. Now this, we're jumping over to Pakistan. Look at that roadway just collapse in. There have been hundreds of lives lost here, and complete fields of just crops that many people were completely putting their life, their hopes in these crops being cultivated, and the crops are just washed away, just completely washed away. There's going to be a lot of relief needed, and this is Balakistan. So this is in what's Pakistan now. It used to be part of India at one time. When we go back before the partition of India and Pakistan 75 years ago, this is just a horrible situation. Again, hundreds and hundreds of people have lost their lives. There are very, very disheartening videos showing many, many bodies being dug up from the mud. And again, crops, which is going to cause a lot more of food anxiety, which the world has a ton of already. And this is all adding to it. The situation's getting worse. Now, again, these people, this area is impoverished. It's a very, very poor area. And so, again, it's going to take some help from people probably in other countries trying to help these people out, as this girl is just trying to find some books that she had in her home.
This is really some scary stuff, and just going back to soul growth, and our primal nature is really that desire to help people. Whenever we talk to you, many of you, your strongest desire is that I just want to help people, and that we are born to want to help people. Our consciousness is expanding, and it's with that expansion and contraction is where we find that growth. So many times, yes, this is a very it's heart-wrenching to watch this, but there is also so much soul growth going on at the same time. So we can embrace that kind of energy, and we can accept that energy. And if you're in a position where you can't physically get out there and help anyone, believe me, your compassion, that vibration of compassion being sent out to these people, is going to make a difference. I think that's one of the things that most people misunderstand, is their ability to help even if they can't leave the room. Your ability to have compassion in your heart and send that energy out to flow is going to make a big difference. Just because we can't see it tangible on the 3D realm in an experience that matches how we want to see our help utilized doesn't mean it's not helping. The energy realm is a realm that we cannot see. It's something that Mike and we work in all day long. It's definitely a tangible area. When you learn to read these energies, see these energies, you can see how they work and understand them in a more tangible manner. But I really want to encourage people, do send your compassion and your love out to others, because it's really going to help.
As you can see, there are people out there that are absolutely risking their lives to try to help other people. And this is what's going to come up again in these times when we look to, as I've made the analogy, World War II, trying to get people of certain targeted ethnicities to safety, actually literally hiding them in basements and farms and anywhere, and bringing them food when, they would otherwise starve. The Underground Railroad, and there's been just case after case of people that have put their own lives in danger trying to help others. This is part of why we come here. We come here to learn, grow, and to test ourselves. Again, this human experience is a ride. It is at times a very, very hard, harsh ride, absolutely. And here we see in China, you have, it's still technically summer, summer snow. Yeah, 21st of August, we're still in summer. Over 10 centimeters of snowfall as the temperatures drop below freezing. And we have magma moving in American Samoa, Mount Mayon unrest. A lot of the natural stuff is still going on as well. But again, if we were living in harmony with Mother Earth, we wouldn't really have to fear the natural. Just as animals clear out an area before a volcano goes off, we would know too. It's just that the system has made it so that we have been cut off from being in that resonance with nature and everything in nature.
We are made of the earth and the sky, and these two energies coming together is us. So our ability to tap directly into the mother and make sure we find ourselves in a safe space is, incredibly beautiful, but at the same time, it's been kind of washed from our ability to do so and understand. We all have the ability to read these energies because it is a part of us, but we've been put in a 3D construct and we've been given these rules and understandings that only match that which the controllers want. So opening up our mind to different possibilities, coming up with new ideas, and then we share them with one another is a way we can help make that consciousness rise up a little bit higher. And I do believe that there's more people would come on board if they just understood a little bit more. And that's where we show our light. That's where we shine our light. Our light spreads very, very far. So the more people we can touch with our understanding and our compassion, the more knowledge is going to get spread about the true nature of us.
So we have 13 people killed, 21 others injured by lightning strikes in a single day in Yemen. So it just shows you what's going on out there. And again, it's all been declassified as far as the weather modification and geoengineering, or I should say enough has been declassified so where we know it's just a fact. And still they give us their little Wikipedia conspiracy theory on chemtrails. Ha ha ha. You know, again, this is the Great Awakening. Over 1,000 scientists and professionals signed formal declaration. There is no climate emergency, no cause for panic and alarm. We strongly oppose the harmful and unrealistic net zero CO2 policy proposed for 2050. And when you think about it, right, think about the stupidity we see in this world. It's idiotic. Here's Kuwait. This is a tire dump. Look at it. It caught fire. How much CO2 is going up? How much toxic chemicals is going up in the air with the way we just pile on these horrible pollutants? You think about this. I mean, what's this equal? How much normal everyday CO2 emissions from London's being equaled here, from New York, from DC, from Paris, you know? It goes on and on. It's just craziness. Again, we recognize they have their agenda, and they really don't care at all about the environment. They don't care at all about life, other than their own. That's pretty obvious. And yet there's been massive changes on this world, absolutely mind-blowing massive changes. Fossil of a 37-million-year-old, that they say, whale skeleton found in the Egyptian desert. And this is down around Cairo. So it's quite a ways in from the Mediterranean. This whale apparently was swimming in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, I mean, he just, got up on all fours and he walked over there and plopped down. I mean, the information that we're taught in school, it just, with every season that goes by, it just gets sillier and sillier, and they're having to revise their books over and over and over because they realize, well, I guess we were wrong. We were mistaken. So it's a matter of when are we going to accept the fact that the history and the science that we're taught, they really don't know much more than anyone else. I think the most accurate way to do things is to learn to read the energy and then understand it. Find the understanding inside of you.
Well, I think we do understand that many do know, or at least have suspicions, but it's not in their best interest. It's certainly not in their best financial interest to come out with the truth. And again, when you see studies funded, again, money corrupts. And again, we have such a corrupt political system where bribery is simply called lobbying. But really, it's bribery when you get down to it. And again, these schools, these organizations that want to keep getting their funding, well, you might want to omit this detail. Well, you might want to not talk about that. Or, well, you might want to just blame it on this. Just telling you, because, it would really be a shame if all of a sudden you didn't have your funding and you were out of your job or out of your research.
Yeah, they definitely have their ways to kind of nudge other people to go ahead and get along with them, because we do have that money system involved in this realm. And that's why we need to kind of work toward replacing that with something that's an energy exchange that's a little more fair, because right now, I mean, the whole house is stacked against us when it comes to money, because follow the science, you follow the money. That's just seems to be fact number one.
Absolutely. So again, get rid of their money system, ignore their money system, develop alternative systems, and then we can make them insignificant. Because that's how they control this entire narrative. It's all through the monetary system.
You know, I think it's a really good idea. It's like, well, where do you even start with that? I mean, it's such a monumental task, and it's one thing to just talk about it, but it's another thing to really put it in action. And from what I can see, I think it's a good idea to definitely minimize any spending that you do and just become more resourceful. Learn to make things from home. Learn to stop and ask yourself, well, what else do I have that might get that job done? You know, and being someone that came from the desert, you know, 100 miles from absolutely nowhere, we did have to learn how to become resourceful. And that's exactly how we did it. It was just sort of, you're sitting at home, you don't have the option to go to a store and get what you need. It's just too far away, or the car's not going to make it, or, you know, for whatever reason. And then you were kind of forced to sit at home and say, okay, well, what else could I utilize to make this work? And guess what? 99% of the time, there's always something else. And that's one place we could start.
Yes, and when Cindy and I were first together, we lived 75 miles from the grocery store. 75 miles from the nearest food store. That makes you become much more efficient and much more organized. So again, guys, as always, thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Again, try to get out of the system as much as you can. Grow whatever you can on your own. Try to barter and trade. Energy exchange. Think in terms of energy exchange. Think in terms of anything you could do where they can't be the blood-sucking leeches that they are.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.